Hello, welcome to The Point. This is quite a new series and we're talking about really interesting subjects relevant to you and me, and today we're talking about DNA. That's God's genetic code in all of our cells. It's a computer code, if you like. It's called all the genetic information which we were given at conception. We're going to see lots of pictures of DNA, and I'm going to prove to you that, I hope, that life never arose by chance in the primordial slime, and DNA definitely never arose by chance. What we're going to actually be talking about today in the next 27 minutes is that Jesus Christ is the author of life, and that this picture in the Sistine Chapel of Michelangelo, he got it wrong. We're going to be talking about the creation of Adam, talking about design systems. We're going to talk about DNA. We're going to talk about a professor called Professor James Tour, who's a world expert on nanotechnology. We're going to talk about how you and I, all of us, were formed in our mother's wombs. One of the things that we often hear Christians say is, I wish I could see a miracle. Well, let me tell you, you are a genuine miracle, an amazing, amazing miracle. You did not happen by chance, and nor did I. The Bible is quite clear that we were chosen before the foundation of the world, and in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And on day 6 he created Adam and Eve. And Jesus spoke a lot about Adam and Eve. Lots of people don't believe in Adam and Eve, but Jesus quite clearly did. Right, well, let's look at John chapter 1 with, I've got a picture of Jesus Christ. I don't know what he really looked like, but it does say in the beginning, in John chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God, and all things were made through him. And without him nothing was made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. So the point here is that Jesus Christ is the one who gave us life, and in him was life. We have life, you have life, I have life. It comes from Jesus Christ. Right. Now, many of you who've seen this picture in the Sistine Chapel, painted by Michelangelo. It's often, you know, when people talk about the origins of life, you'll often see this picture. Well, let me tell you, Michelangelo, if that's how you say his name, he should have read his Bible, because that's not how it happened at all. I just wanted to just say that that is an interesting and piece of art, got nothing whatever to do with reality. Sorry about that. So let's look at what the Bible actually says did happen. In Genesis 1:26, it says, then God said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth. So God created man in his own image, in the image of God. So he created him male and female. He created them. Now, one important point is that God is not a human being. He's a spirit. We're told that in the New Testament. Now, I've just got a picture here. This is not to say that this is what God looks like. It's just to give you the idea that God is not a human living being like you and I are. So the point of me showing you that is that when it said God, Elohim, plural, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, said, let us make man in our image, what did he create? He created spirits in his exact likeness. Say it again. He created spirits in his exact likeness. It's only till Genesis chapter 2 that we get the creation of man, and we'll come to that in just a second. So, I don't really know what a spirit looks like, but I want to give you an idea. This is actually Kirlian photography. I'll be talking about that later on, but it's just an energy field around you and me. All of us have an energy field, and that's what it looks like. That's not really a spirit, but it just gives you the idea. All right? So the point I'm trying to make is that Adam and Eve originally were spirits. Now, as I've already said, God isn't a human being. He's a spirit. But Jesus Christ was originally spirit, but he actually came as a human being, as you know. Exactly when he came, around about 2,000 years ago, we're not actually sure exactly when he came. But one of the things he said is in John chapter 8, verse 58, he said, before Abraham was, I am, indicating that he pre-existed Abraham. In fact, he pre-existed the creation of the whole universe because he created it. So what actually are human beings? What are human beings? Well, let's have a look. That's a human being, if you like. And a human being actually is something made of earthly elements with a spirit living in it. Just to remind you, we have a spirit. That's my idea of what a spirit might look like. It's not really what a spirit looks like, but just to give you the idea. Now, an average 70 kilogram adult contains, I'm told, 6.7 times 10 to the power of 27 atoms in it. That's 6.7 with 27 zeros after it. That's an awful lot of atoms. But they're actually made of 60 chemical elements. You've heard of elements. Now the Earth, the natural Earth, has, let's look at it, 88 chemical elements. And of the 88, you and I have got 60 of them in us. But actually, the commonest by far are just 6 of them. They are oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, calcium, and phosphorus. So let's look and see how the first human being was actually made. It's in Genesis 2:7. I'll read it to you. The Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being. So let's surmise what really happened. The answer is we don't really know, because I wasn't there, you weren't really know, but we get some clues. Right, well, Adam was originally, and Eve, they were originally spirits. So what actually happened is that Jesus Christ took something, the mud, or the clay, or the earth, and made Adam. He didn't make Eve at this stage. That's actually coming in the next part. This is a two-parter on DNA. I'll explain to you how God did a tissue transplant to make Eve using DNA. But actually what he did was he got DNA and created Adam. Now let's look at this word Adam. It's a Hebrew word. The word dust comes from the word afar, which means dry earth, dust, powder, ashes, earth or ground. And the Hebrew word ground comes from Adamah, meaning ground or land. Now it's actually quite instructive to look and see what the word Adam actually means. It's actually quite instructive indeed. There are 3 roots for the word Adam. So Adam means human, specifically from deriving from the earth. Adamah means ground, and dam means D-A-M means blood. So when we talk about Adam, we're actually talking about something that is human, from the earth, and containing blood. That's what the word Adam means. So you and I are human, made from the elements of the earth, and contain blood. That's what we are. That's what the word Adam means. Now, what happened was that Jesus Christ he formed the elements of the earth, the various elements of which were made, using this DNA, this computer genetic code which I talked about, into the exact likeness of an adult, fully mature Adam, but that Adam was dead, because in James it says the body without the spirit is dead. Right? I'll say it again. The body without the spirit is dead. So how did Jesus Christ make that dead body come to life? Well, he breathed through his nostrils the spirit of life. The spirit of Adam that had been created in Genesis 1 was breathed by Jesus Christ into that human body, and man became a living being. Does that make sense to you? I hope it does. That's my interpretation of Genesis 1 and 2. Now, I want to move on now to design systems, and I want to make it really simple for you and use a simple example just so you can understand design systems. Now, some of you may have heard of the Battle of Britain. So here is the most famous British aeroplane, the Spitfire. Well, guess what? It didn't happen by chance. No, it was designed, famously, it was designed by a chap called R.J. Mitchell, and he actually spent many years perfecting it, but here is one of his very, very early drawings of a Spitfire. It's a design of a Spitfire. Obviously, there's much more design than that, but that was his early prototype model of a Spitfire. Now, the Spitfire was actually powered by a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, and a very, very powerful engine which made those Spitfires fly at 360 miles an hour in the air, which was very, very fast in those days, 1940. And of course that was designed as well. So there is the original design of the Merlin Rolls-Royce engine. Very, very powerful engine. They were all, of course, made in factories. Now, they were actually assembled. There were 20,000 of them made, but they were assembled in factories all over the United Kingdom. Here's actually one in near Southampton, where I live. But they're actually made all over the place. 20,000 of them were made. But they were assembled in factories. Now, one of the problems with all, especially warplanes, fighter planes, is that sadly, occasionally they would crash. This is, I think, on a civilian airfield, but it's a crashed Spitfire. Now, one of the problems with Spitfires is they can't manufacture themselves again. And that's one big difference between a Spitfire and the human body, because the human body can make itself well again. Now, some of you may have heard, unfortunately, I was involved in an accident a while ago. Actually, I've gone ahead of myself slightly. Sorry about that. I want to show you that a human being is a fertilized egg. Here's fertilization, and that's when the DNA from the dad with 20 chromosomes becomes one cell with the DNA from the mum, which also has 23 chromosomes, making it a total of 46 chromosomes. And in a separate program, we talked about babies in the womb, so that after 9 months, that tiny little fertilized egg became a human baby, which you're very familiar with, and here's a little human baby just being born after 9 months. I was a little bit ahead of myself, and I was going to say that one of the problems with all planes is that occasionally they crash, hopefully not too often, but they do sometimes, and usually it's a write-off. Well, humans not the same. Sometimes we crash. I don't know if you heard, but I was involved in a very nasty accident last summer, and I had 11 fractures. Now, one of the fractures I got was of my leg. That actually isn't my leg, but it's very, very similar to my leg. On the left, you can see that the tibia is broken in 3 places, which is exactly what happened to my leg. And I'm very grateful to the surgeon who put a steel pin down my leg. Now, I'm very grateful to the surgeon for setting it in the right place, but the real thanks need to go to God, because the steel pin did not make my leg better. No, who made my leg better? Well, it says in the Bible, I am the Lord who heals us. Now, God has given us osteoblasts and osteoclasts, which are bone cells which unite under the very careful guidance of our genetic code called DNA, so that the shattered tibia is reformed into a tibia which I can walk on again. It's going to take some time. I'm still limping a little bit, but it's going to take time. That metal shaft was just the beginning. That made sure it's set in the right place. But the point is that God is the one who actually heals us. I know doctors like to take the credit, but that's wrong. No, when we're ill, it's actually God who makes us better, because he has pre-programmed our bodies to heal themselves, unlike Spitfires. So let's move on now about this amazing code called DNA. In Psalm 139, it says, I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Well, that's the understatement of the year. DNA is actually God's language of biological information. It's God's blueprint of every single cell of the 100 trillion cells in our bodies. Within each cell, encoded in the DNA, are exact instructions to build all the proteins of our bodies. And these proteins are used to make skin cells, eye cells, brain cells, heart cells, liver cells, blood cells, etc. And this is what President Clinton had to say in the year 2000, when they just completed what's called the Human Genome Project. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But listen carefully to what President Clinton had to say in the year 2000. This is a White House release on June the 26th, 2000. Today, we are learning the language in which God created life. We are gaining even more awe for the complexity, the beauty, the wonder of God's most divine and sacred gift. Now, just have a look now at a very, very simple model of DNA. It is incredibly, incredibly complex. It's actually a helix There are 100 trillion cells in our bodies, and every single cell has its famous double helix, which we call DNA. It's God's biological information system, and is the single most amazing information system in the entire universe. It's incredibly complex, and it's incredibly compact. Now, you know how we're all made of 100 trillion cells? Well, all of those cells are tiny. Absolutely tiny, and yet you get hold of that genetic code and stretch it out, it's 6 feet long. It's 6 feet long, which is amazing considering how tiny those individual cells are. But what's on those cells? Well, let me tell you, it's information, and very, very sophisticated information. Here are the supercomputers at NASA, and they are really, really, they call them supercomputers because they are. They are fantastic computers. They're the most powerful computers on the planet. But they have got nothing on DNA. They don't even come close to anything like DNA. DNA is incredibly powerful. And I want to give you just an illustration of just how powerful DNA. Here's a teaspoon. Now, you can't get a teaspoon of DNA, but I want you to imagine a teaspoon of DNA. And how much genetic information could that teaspoon hold? Well, if you've got that teaspoon of DNA, it could hold all the precise assembly instructions for all of the proteins, for all of the 100 million species of animals that have ever existed on this planet. All of them on that 1 teaspoon of DNA. That includes all the humans, all the 1,000 million species of animals that have ever existed are all on that 1 teaspoon of DNA, and all the information for all the books that have ever been written. All of them, and a lot more besides. There's plenty more room for a lot more information. So it didn't happen by chance. No, this happened by a super intelligence. And I can't describe a super intelligence other than tell you his name is Jesus Christ, but we can get an idea as we look out at night time in the universe, we can get an idea of the super intelligence behind the universe. We can see the stars and the sun rising over the earth and everything else. There's a super intelligence out there that created the whole universe and created DNA. Now, the Natural History Museum, if you visit the Natural History Museum, very interesting actually, but they just got it wrong. They said all happened by chance in the primordial slime. There was there was a big bang 20 billion years ago, or sometimes they say it happened 13 billion years ago. They've changed their mind recently. And they say that 3.8 billion years ago, life arose in the primordial slime. They say there was probably lightning or something. Here we've got some lightning to show you. And life suddenly evolved. I've just got 3 words to say about that. I don't think so. I don't think that's what happened at all. Now, we've actually got some very famous Nobel Prize winning scientists. Here they are, Francis Crick and James Watson. They discovered the molecular structure of DNA in 1953 and were both given the Nobel Prize for Physiology or Medicine. And their citation was that they discovered the molecular structure of nucleic acids and its significance for information transfer in the living material, in all living material. Now, let me talk a little bit about the Human Genome Project, which was a 13-year project which was completed in 2003. Lots of different countries were involved, including the United Kingdom, but it was predominantly the US, was the US Department of Energy and National Institute of Health, and they had lots of different things they wanted to do, but one of the many goals was to identify the 25,000 genes in the human DNA and determine the sequence of the 3 billion chemical base pairs that make up human DNA. Now, I told you that this is a really sophisticated computer code, or genetic code. So I want to give you just an idea of how this geometric code works. So if you just see, this is just a model of DNA, and you can see on that slide the letters A, T, C, and G, which stand for adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. And those are the letters, if you like, those are the letters of the DNA alphabet. Now, the evolutionists like us to say that life evolved in the primordial slime 3.8 billion years ago in simple life forms. Now, I'm going to show you a simple life form. It's called a bacteria. In your intestines and mine, we've got loads and loads of bacteria. They're there for a very good purpose, to break down foodstuff. And that's what a bacteria looks like. But let me tell you, every single bacteria has got DNA in it. So I would actually say to an evolutionist, I'm sorry, but there's no such thing as a simple life form. Anything that's got DNA in it is not simple. You got the message? It's got DNA in it, which is the most complex, sophisticated code system in the universe. It's incredibly complex. So a bacteria is incredibly complex. Just to give you an idea of figures, it takes 500,000 A's or C's or T's or G's to give the biological code for one tiny living bacteria. What about you and me? Well, here's a brain cell. In a human cell, it takes 3 billion of these A, T, C's or G's, these letters, to represent one cell. 3 billion of them, all right? That's just for one cell. And that's all encoded on the DNA. Wow. That's amazing, isn't it? So we have all these different cells, bone cells, heart cells, liver cells, spleen cells, and all the other cells, skin cells, and they've all got different codes. And we've all got different ones from each other, because I don't know if you noticed, we've got different skin colors. Now, the computer codes that we're all familiar with on our laptops and whatever, so computers, it's actually a very primitive code. It's actually a series of ones and zeros. So how does that compare with God's type of code? Well, this is what chromosome 17 looks like by comparison. It looks like a blur to you. That's because it is a blur. It's a mass, absolutely complex mass of information just for one simple chromosome. Now, if you've got any comments about this series, which is new, this is only the 4th we've done, we'd love to hear from you, because this is, if you like, a pilot series. Please send us an email, or please phone the office, or please contact us, or a text. We'd love to hear from you. We want some guidance from the viewers, but, you know, if you find these programs helpful or useful, or anything you'd like us to change. I want to finish by telling you about Professor James Tour, who's a professor of chemistry at Rice University in the States. He's a worldwide authority on nanoscale science and technology, and his work is featured in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal and Science Magazine. He lectures in all the leading universities and Ivy League schools in America. He also teaches Sunday school at West University Baptist Church in Houston, Texas, and he's a leading authority on new research in nanoscience. And he recently spoke at Calvary Fellowship Church in Clear Lake, and this is what he actually said. I'm going to read out to you what he says. Forgive me reading it, but I want to get it right. Okay, this is what he said. I build molecules for a living, says this world-eminent scientist. I can't begin to tell you how difficult that job is. I stand in awe of God because of what he has done through his creation. My faith has been increased through my research. Only a rookie who knows nothing about science would say that science takes away from faith. If you really study science, it will bring you closer to God. There are so many casualties in the Christian faith. So many fall away or become ineffective. The only way to stay strong is to stay in the Scriptures. It brings life and draws us closer to Jesus. That's a world-famous nanoscientist talking about his own personal faith and his studies of DNA. So what about you and me? Well, how are we formed in the womb? We've got a separate program about that. But in brief, we came from a single cell over 9 months, and that single cell had all the genetic information, all the biological code, if you like, to form you and me over a 9-month period. We were created by God, who chose us before the foundation of the world. He gave us a spirit when we were born at conception, because remember, James says, without the spirit, the body is dead. And then he gave us our DNA. And I don't know which is more supernatural, the DNA or the spirit. They're both supernatural. So he gave us this fantastic, amazing, miraculous DNA. Psalm 39 says, verse 14, I will praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. We do not live in a natural world. Don't look for miracles. You are a miracle. You definitely are a miracle. There's nothing that's like, there's no other. We are created in the image of God. Nothing else looks like us. And we are created in the image of God, using our DNA and giving us a human spirit, which is life itself. Life comes as the spirit enters the body at conception. And we are fearfully and wonderfully made. How fearfully and wonderfully made? Well, I think you've got an idea of that from the Spitfire. The Spitfire is quite simple, actually. Well, it's a very complex aircraft, but actually compared with our human body, it's relatively simple. And when it crashes, that's the end of the Spitfire. Our bodies, you know, I broke lots of bones last summer. Well, 11 bones, but they're all mended now because God has given me DNA, and it's programmed my osteoclast and my osteoblast to make all my shattered bones and my back and my pelvis and my sacrum, my tibia and my fingers and my chest all better, because God has programmed our bodies. By his stripes we are healed. God has programmed us to get better. He has given us the most supernatural, amazing genetic code. Do send us some feedback. We'd love some feedback from you. info@Revelation TV. And there will be another program on this very subject, DNA. It's the most amazing and complex computer genetic code in the universe. It is so supernatural, I can't tell you how supernatural it is. You are a miracle. Believe it or not, I'm a miracle too. We're all miracle in a supernatural world created by God himself. Thank you for joining us. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you on To The Point, and we look forward to you joining us next time. God bless you, and thank you for listening. God bless you, and give us some feedback. info@revelationtv.com. Bless you. Thanks for listening, and I hope you found this helpful.